Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. As you can see, I'm here with the one and only Suns Geek today. How's it going?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me back on your channel as always. Life is good, man. Just pumping out as much Phoenix Suns content as I can and enjoying our current, at the time of this recording, 10-game winning streak.
Yeah, you guys might remember him from last season. Although I did have you on that multiple guest episode. This is the first time that you're on for the whole show,
Let's
which that's
go.
exciting. And obviously, we're going to talk about your Suns later on. But I think the
Yes,
first thing we're
sir.
going to talk about is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I've seen you've been really high on them on Twitter, on your own live
hmm
streams, your own YouTube, and all that stuff. Right now, they're 9-7. They're currently playing well with the Warriors. Might be hard to see, but I have the game on in the back there.
Copyright claims.
Oh no, I can't. They're up 9 right now on the Warriors, so I think it's
Nice.
safe to say they're going to be close by the end of it.
hmm
They probably won't get blown out, but obviously they're suffering a bunch of injuries right now, and I think a lot of people didn't believe in them to start the year. So I guess what I'm going to ask you is, are you still believing in Cleveland?
Absolutely. Now, look, I'm not saying they're a playoff contend. No, I'm not saying they're a championship contender. Excuse me, but I really do believe this team can make the playoffs. I don't know what seed they're going to be. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year. They might maybe hit a stretch where they struggle, but I really believe in this Cleveland team. I like this Cleveland team. Really stinks that Evan Mobley is out for 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. But I think they can hold on until he comes back. And don't get me started on Evan Mobley. That guy, in my opinion, is going to be a future superstar. He just makes the little things look easy, and he's still so young. He's still so raw. But in terms of Cleveland, man, I really like their head coach, JB Bickerstaff. He's a guy that's been around the league for years, and he's, coached on a ton of teams and has years of basketball experience. And I think one of the biggest pickups of the offseason was Ricky Rubio, who, I forget if he's starting right now, but with the injured Colin Sexton, that's just a perfect opportunity for him to shine. A good example of that was, when he was in New York, he had 37 and 10. He had 8 threes or something like that. And they just got a lot of nice young pieces, man. Like Isaac Okoro, the newest addition, Larry Markkinen, and Jarrett Allen signed that big contract. And probably guys that I'm forgetting about. Darius Garland's been playing great for them. I really like this Cavaliers team. I totally believe in them. Even before they got Evan Mobley and the whole Larry Markkinen stuff, I kind of knew they were trending upward. I mean, it couldn't really get any worse, right? So yes, to answer your question, I believe in Cleveland. Maybe a 6 seed and a playoff berth. I'll take it.
They very well could be. I think just the NBA fans in general would like to see the Cavaliers back in the playoffs on a team that doesn't have LeBron James on the roster. So I think that would be kind of exciting, because when was the last
Exactly.
time that's happened? It's been so long. Probably go back to the Mark Price, Brad Doherty days. But anyways, just talking about Cleveland, I think they have been very impressive to start the year. Now, of course, I think we got to take it with a grain of salt, because remember last year they did start off very hot as well.
Yes.
So, and then I believe they went on a 10 or 11 game losing streak. So that very well could happen. But right now they look like a much better team. And like you said, with Ricky Rubio, I mean, I watched that whole Knicks game as a D Rose fan. It was a gut punch for real, because I was like, this dude's never played this good before. But I mean, he's been in the league for a long time now. He's an NBA veteran of pretty much a decade. I think he's in his 11th year. He was drafted in '09.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He started in, I think, 2011. So, I mean, and he's probably gotten the most hype so far this season than when he originally came into the NBA, which is crazy. And then, Colin Sexton, unfortunately, had the meniscus injury. And, Evan Mobley, he's going to miss a few weeks now. Lowry Markkinen, it seems like he's always out with something. As a Bulls fan, I
Yeah.
know that. But he's out with protocol right now. And then Jared Allen, he has an illness. So I think that's something that you got to consider as well, is that if this team's going to be, dealing with in and out all year long, it's going to be hard to find continuity. It's going to be hard to find consistency, and then
Exactly.
eventually, find playoff success. But again, like I will say about Evan Mobley, I think that he probably already is a superstar. It's just that it's a weird thing with a lot of rookies. I'll compare it to like we see Miles Bridges right now, and
Mhm.
his one of his first few years in the league, the Hornets, it was basically Terry Rozier, who's still there and he's still playing great, and Devontae Graham. They were
Yeah,
like the two main guys, and then Miles Bridges had to work his way up. Now we're seeing him, and then now LaMelo's like got drafted and he's asserted himself into that
superstar.
role. Exactly. So like
Hmm.
it takes time, I think, for them to get that chance. But I think Evan Mobley, if you told him to go out there, because that game against Boston, he was great. So
Such a great game.
I think that like he could have these moments for sure. He just got to be presented the opportunity a little more. But I mean, for where I'd predict him to be, there's a lot of good teams in the East. I don't know if I could say they're. I think that the only way they'll get in the playoffs is probably by way of the play-in. I think that's probably where most people would sit. But I mean, I wouldn't count them out. I think that they played pretty well so far, and if they keep it up, then who knows? Anything is possible.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, like every rookie, might hit that rookie wall. Maybe next year Evan Mobley might have a sophomore slump, but I really like this kid, and he just plays the game so well, and he's so smooth and makes everything look easy, like I said. And you're right. Like, I'm currently looking at the standings, and I know there's games being played right now. Still early in the season too. We're not even at 15 games yet, but you might be right about the play-in because eventually Philly's going to get healthy. Who knows what's going to happen with Ben Simmons? But there's a lot of confusing teams right now. I mean, Milwaukee's been injured. I know we're going to talk about them later. The Hawks have been struggling this year. I just really hope they're somewhere around that 6th, 7th seed and maybe have a safe spot to get into the playoffs. But I am on the Cavs bandwagon. I'm saying it here.
Yeah, you've been one of the first ones I've seen preaching it, so I figured we had to touch on it early in the show. Um, but let's move on though. Let's talk about a little bit of bad news. Bad luck, Luka, as I titled this segment. Our buddy Luka Doncic, he suffered an injury late in the game against the Nuggets, and then he missed your game against the Phoenix Suns.
Yep.
You guys got him tomorrow at the time that we're recording this.
Yep.
So, and he most likely, I'd say, would miss that. But I think the other thing that we got to consider is that, this isn't the first time. From what I saw, it's both like a knee and an ankle
Mm-hmm.
thing with Luka Doncic right now. We've seen him have like the ankle issues in the past. So, do you think maybe this could be something to like look for in like down the line in the future of his career? And what do you think it means right now for the Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, I mean that's where it's sort of a small red flag. I mean, I guess thank goodness that these injuries aren't more severe, but from the reports that I'm seeing, he is doubtful for Friday's game. And who knows when he's going to come back, because right now the Dallas Mavericks are currently sitting 9-5. They're 4th in the West. There's a lot of teams with a 9-5 record. I guess now is the time you want him injured. You don't want him injured down the road closer to the playoffs, in my opinion. But again, the red flag for me is that it's 2 injuries, not just one. So that's kind of a concern. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be one of these great superstars in the league that's always injured. I mean, as a fan of basketball, I don't know if I want that, but I'm not a fan of the Mavericks, so I guess it's good news for the Suns and everything. But it definitely is a red flag to me. And, I wish the guy the best. I know he's a superstar and everything, but I think it's a little bit of a red flag. And down the road, Luka's not in the best shape, which I do think he actually uses that to his advantage. But it's like the Zion thing. Zion is not in NBA shape right now, and you can tell it's already causing problems for his NBA career.
I think
So
they
we'll just
said
have to see,
they said he's
man.
pushing like 300 pounds now.
Exactly.
So that could be a whole nother story. But I mean, just for Luka, we'll see what happens. I have their next 5 games here, so they play your Phoenix Suns. That's going to be a tough one. They got the Clippers twice. They got the Washington Wizards, who have been playing insane this year.
Yes.
And then, just as we talked about, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So
tough schedule.
It is a tough schedule, especially at this part of the season where everyone's energized, everyone's playing with a ton of firepower. But the thing about Luka's injury is it is kind of a red flag, like you said, down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's 2 injuries, both of them would probably be something where it's like a mild day-to-day type of status, but
Exactly.
you got to do like strengthening to like get yourself back to playing condition like after that. And I feel like it's going to take almost like double, maybe triple the amount of a day-to-day status to come back. So it could be like a 2-week thing or maybe longer. And down the line, I mean, the Western Conference is tough. I mean, both conferences are tough now, but the Western Conference,
Especially now, yeah.
yeah, has always been tough. So
Mhm.
missing out on maybe 4 or 5 games at the end of the year, that could cause you from being the fifth seed all the way to like eighth or ninth. And it's like now you got to put yourself in the play-in, and it's like almost winner go home scenario. So I don't know. That's kind of like what I'm thinking about. I know it's probably seems stupid to think about like, oh no, like if we lose this game, but I mean it's an 82 game season, and at the end of the day, it's about how many wins as opposed to how many losses. So.
And I think it's interesting you bring that up, and this is why I'm glad I pulled the standings up before this. And again, I know it's early in the season; anything could happen. Because I mentioned the Mavericks are 9-5 right now. Well, so are the Jazz, so are the Clippers, and so are the Nuggets. And then the bottom 4 teams really aren't that far apart. I mean, even the Oklahoma City Thunder are 6-8. They can maybe sneak into the playoffs. Like the Blazers are 8-8, the Lakers are 8-8. Like if the Mavericks lost a few in a row, they could drop. So
Right.
that's why I love basketball, man. I mean, just some of these records, if you go on a winning streak, you could shoot up. If you go on a losing streak, you could shoot down. And even though I've criticized the playing game a little bit, it actually is kind of low-key exciting, especially when teams are fighting for their playoff lives.
Right. I mean, like, well, adding that single elimination factor to it is always like exciting. It's
like
almost
a
like
March Madness thing,
and like a wild card kind of in baseball. But
yep.
I think I guess the good thing for that with seeding is I think right now the 6 and 7 seed there's a little gap there because I think Portland's like 8-8 and they're in 7th.
Yeah, Portland's 8-8, 7th seed.
So they're like 2.5, 3 games back. So maybe by the time he comes back, they're about equal with them. Everything turns out fine. But
exactly,
it's just definitely something that could be worried about down the line.
And I give them props. They started off the season really good. You know, they're 6-4 in their last 10, and they've been kind of at that 4 spot for a while. They've been playing pretty good basketball,
especially for how much people have criticized Jason Kidd. You know, to be that high, it's pretty impressive.
Exactly.
Let's move on to another player who's been one of the best in the league so far this year, and that's someone on my Chicago Bulls, DeMar DeRozan. It seems like watching this guy, he just doesn't miss at all. And I mean, he's averaging like 27, 5, and 4. He's been our best player this whole season. He already has 5 30-point games this season as well. And I know he had struggled the other night against Portland.
That, to be honest.
Yeah. He almost went for 40 against the Lakers, I think it was.
Wow.
But yeah, both those LA games, I mean, he obviously loves being out there because, you know, that's kind of where he's from. But what I will say to you is that do you think that DeMar DeRozan in Chicago has kind of, you know, reinvented his game a little bit? And do you think maybe down the line, like for this season at least, that he needs to be a number 1 or like a number 2 or play as like a 1A, 1B with Zach LaVine?
I would say, to answer the last part of your question, I think it's, you know, A and B with him and Zach LaVine, because Zach LaVine is that kind of player. In my opinion, he's a superstar. The guy's an all-star. Maybe if Zach LaVine was not on this team, I'd say, yes, DeMar DeRozan needs to be that guy. But I do think he really does have an MVP case. He's been playing great basketball this year. And I won't lie, up until last year, I didn't know that he was that good of a playmaker. You know, currently he's averaging 4.2 assists, which he might have averaged something close to that last year. The guy's kind of just, in my opinion, always been an overlooked superstar. Maybe that's just because of the markets he's played, like in Toronto and all that. But the guy is reinventing himself, and it's had a great time. And I'm kind of on the Chicago Bulls bandwagon. I'm not just saying that because I'm on your show. I like what the Chicago Bulls did this offseason. They're obviously building something special. I think I saw a quote. I don't know if it was from their owner or from their GM. He was like, "We're not taking mediocrity here." He said something like that. And I love that. That's how a lot of teams should be. They should pay the money and make the moves in order to win, you know, even just get to the playoffs consistently. So I'm cheering for the Chicago Bulls. I'm cheering for DeMar DeRozan. He's got to be in the MVP conversation this season. He might need to step it up a level, but I feel like that's hard to do when you're on a really good team like the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think what he's done, especially down the stretch of games, like we wouldn't be where we're at right now if it weren't for him. And that's
Exactly.
why I think he deserves some MVP recognition. I mean, where I'd rank him, I mean, guys like KD and Steph and Jokic, like they've been playing insane, and they don't really have much of a co-star. Now, James Harden is another co-star, but he hasn't played like James Harden that we know.
There's
So
been like injuries too, you know.
yeah, and I mean, you got to consider like DeRozan. He's got Zach LaVine. I know Vucevic has missed some games, but he did have him for about half of them so far. He's going to get him back soon after he's out of protocol. I mean, Lonzo Ball has played insane, so like maybe that takes a little bit away from his case, but I think that he has kind of reinvented his game. I think so far this is probably the second best season of his career outside of the last year in Toronto when they were the first seed.
Right.
And if you look at right now, I believe he's shooting a career high from three-pointer, and he's also shooting a lot more attempts than he shot the past several years. So that's also something to consider. Like, I mean, and I watched him some, with the Spurs too last year.
Right.
And your point about him as a playmaker, I remember early on, I think it was in right before All-Star break last year. I was looking at some of the top scorers in the league, and I think he had the highest assist to turnover ratio, and he
Wow.
was averaging like over 7 assists at that point in the season. So he's definitely underrated, I'd say, as a playmaker, as a
Mhm.
facilitator. So he can definitely take that responsibilities. And he doesn't even need to do it all the time because it's like we got a guy like Lonzo Ball. We also got Zach LaVine.
Exactly.
And, Kobe White's coming back as well. Like, I know he struggled the first few games, but over time he's going to get better. So I think all these guys are going to help out DeMar DeRozan a lot. And I kind of like the way that he's been playing as the number one. I think at least like down the stretch of games, he should be like the first option. Now, if it's like we need a three-pointer, then it's like, okay, let's go to Zach LaVine first.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, DeMar DeRozan, although he has improved his three-point shot, I mean, I'm not going to take him to shoot that shot over Zach
Right.
LaVine. So, but I don't know. I think that both of them really work well together. The chemistry is looking good, and it feels good to be a Bulls fan right now.
Yeah, again, it's like I said, like I just really like what this team is doing. And I know that they really struggled after the Nikola Vucevic trade, if I remember correctly, but you knew something there was building. You knew something was happening. And that was kind of my wake-up call with Chicago Bulls was when they got Nikola Vucevic. And kind of feel bad for him. He kind of started off the season struggling, I think, this year. And I think he's out right now or whatever, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Bulls are going to do. I can't wait to see how the seeding is going to be with them. I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the league, especially if they can put it all together defensively. I love the Lonzo Ball addition, and I'm low key cheering for the Bulls.
Well, I know Billy Donovan will not hesitate to give him his complete rollback right away because the way Tony
Exactly.
Bradley has been playing, yikes. I don't know if you've seen me on Twitter. Tony Bradley, I'm sorry
I
if you're
met his dad once at Summer League. He's a nice guy.
I don't pull many views on this, so the odds are very low. But if Tony Bradley is watching this, I apologize right now. But nah.
We're trying to motivate you, Tony. Play better.
And then next game he comes out, drops 101. He one ups
Yep.
Wilt. But let's move on. Actually, a little bit northern of Chicago to Milwaukee. And let's talk about the Bucks a little bit because they started the year off a little bit slow. They did get a win the other day against the Lakers, and Giannis just completely dominated. He had like 47 points.
Yep.
He had like, I think, 29 more than AD, who, those guys have been compared for so long now, and it just looked like, one man was way better than the other. But now, they got Khris Middleton back. Drew Holiday, he came back a few games ago, so he's getting like more accustomed back to the rotation. They're going to have Lopez back soon. Their next 5 games are pretty easy. I mean, the Thunder, the Magic again, the Pistons, and then the Nuggets, that's going to be a hard one. But outside of the Nuggets game, like those next 4 are probably going to be big building block games for them to get their chemistry back together.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? How do you think that the defending champions will start to look once they, get back to 100%?
I think they'll be fine. I mean, the reason they started off the season bad was really just because of injuries, in my opinion. And as we've seen with my Phoenix Suns and a lot of other teams, a lot of teams have started off the season slow. But once they are fully healthy, or at least 90% healthy, I think they'll be fine. They obviously have the experience. Until the NBA Finals of this year, they are the defending champions. You know what I mean? They still hold that crown. And I never count out Giannis, especially after the finals. He's obviously one of the best player, if not the best player in the league, and don't count him out. And I think eventually they'll make a push. I will say they probably got to get going soon, because we've seen some, like the Wizards are a surprise team this year, and Miami's playing really good, and Cleveland, etc. So they might want to start getting some wins. I think they'll probably go 4-1 over the next 5. They might drop one of those games, but yeah, they're a really good team. I've always been a fan of Khris Middleton too, so hopefully he can start playing well. And I will say this though, losing PJ Tucker, I don't know if that's really like a significant loss, but I've always been a fan of PJ Tucker. He's totally a Miami Heat kind of guy, but you might miss that experience down the stretch, during the playoffs, in my opinion. But beyond that, like if that's the only move I'm complaining about with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think they had a good offseason. And again, they're the defending NBA champions. So
I will apologize for saying that when I asked you that, defending champions. I know that probably hit too close to home for you.
It's okay, man. I've had my therapy.
But no, I think that the Milwaukee Bucks, they're going to get it going. Obviously, like these next 4 games, they should win all of them probably pretty easily, unless like everyone just struggles. And even if they do, they'll probably still find a way to win, at least I predict. So
I think they just got too much experience.
Yeah, and I mean, now if somehow, some way they struggle in these like next 4 games, and then they got Denver coming up, and then I mean, I didn't see who's after that, but eventually they're going to be playing tougher teams than the next 4 to balance out like everyone's schedule. So then it might be a problem a little bit, but of course, they're the defending champions though, so they're not going to be too. I feel like they're not going to be like too stressed, too motivated this early in the season. I think even last year they did start off a little bit slow. I don't know if it was this late. I think it was after like 10 games or something, but I think it's fine. I think that they're going to be good. I don't know if they'll make a comeback and get the 1 seed necessarily. I don't know if that's really their focus, but I mean, they didn't even get it last year's, and it worked out pretty well. So I think that they're focused on, April, May, June, more so than right now. But obviously, they'll make sure that they end up getting themselves there, like getting a spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think honestly, even for the Phoenix Suns and just the top teams in the NBA, I think that's all that matters. I don't think they care about seeding. Especially if I was the defending NBA champion, I wouldn't care either. Just get to the playoffs, take care of business, get back to the finals. So
exactly. Speaking of the Phoenix Suns, we can talk about how they've been the best team in the NBA recently. They're on currently a 10-game winning streak, which is the most since 2006-2007, back in the Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire days, the good old times. And right now they have the second best record in the NBA. I have their next 7 games here because, their franchise record is 17 in a row. So it's some pretty tough games, but the Mavs, the Nuggets, the Spurs, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Nets, and then ironically enough, game 17 is against the Warriors, who are the only team with a better record. So that would like tie it. So, and that's also to close out the month. So like, what do you expect from the Suns for, this next stretch of games, and how far do you think this streak could go?
Well, I think you responded to me on Twitter saying they probably could get like a 16, 17 game winning streak going. But it's interesting that this tough schedule is happening now. And I really feel like what is going to happen throughout the rest of November and then early on in early December is going to kind of put a stamp on our season in a weird way, even though it's still early. I mean, those are some really tough teams you mentioned. So I'm not expecting us to win each and every single game. Obviously, it's going to be tough, but I think it's really going to show a lot about what this Phoenix Suns team is and how motivated they are. Obviously, if we can have a winning record over this next stretch of games rather than a losing record, that will be really good. And look, obviously going on a winning streak is fun, but I don't think the Phoenix Suns really care. I just think they want to win as many basketball games as they possibly can. They just need a lot more consistency. You know, as much as I praise this team as of late, I've also been really critical, especially the start of the season, man. I made a whole video talking about consistency. And sure, you know, it was a slow start and everything, finals hangover and all that. But yeah, it's all about consistency with this tough stretch. And we'll probably run into a later schedule with the Suns where it's going to be a really tough stretch of games. But I am looking forward to each and every single one. You know, a lot of people like to say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. That's kind of been the Phoenix Suns as of late. They've started off games really, really slow and then won down the stretch. I think it needs to be vice versa. I think they need to start the game strong and then finish kind of ugly, in my opinion. But just get a few W's, end the month of November, and then start the month of December off great. But it's gonna be fun, man. I can't wait. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And I will say, though, it will be tough for sure because I think their last two games, I mean, obviously the game against Dallas, no Luka, and that was probably a nail biter, I'm assuming, for you.
Yeah.
And then the Timberwolves game, wasn't that was the one right before it, I believe.
Oh,
that one.
Yeah, and both teams, in all fairness, just shot horrifically, but that's what I'm talking about. We've had a lot of ugly wins. I don't care if you're the Timberwolves or Rockets or the Magic, like,
I think it was
wins, man.
Was it the Rockets game where you guys had like I think it was a great second half and you were still like so mad about
there was also a Pelicans game like that too. But yeah, it was the Pelicans and Rockets, and I was
one of them.
And you know me, I keep things pretty positive, especially on my channel, but I was negative Nelly for like a week.
I mean, if I were to predict, I think they will beat the Mavs. I think that they probably realize, like, okay, we got, like, way too close. We should have taken care of business a lot earlier. So I think they'll take care of business tomorrow. The Nuggets will be a hard one because, you know, Nikola Jokic is an MVP-level player, the reigning MVP. But they did lose early in the season against them. So I think that they will try to get revenge. And then the Spurs and the Cavs, I think they'll beat. Now, the Knicks, the Nets, and the Warriors, that's where it gets a little skeptical. They do play the Warriors twice, though, so I think they'll at least probably get one of those. But I think that this streak will probably go at least 14 games. That's my prediction. And I did predict the Suns in my first episode. Whoa, voice crack. My first episode of the season, I predicted them to be the number one seed. So I think that they very well could win all these games. I mean, depending on the right night. The Nets haven't been like perfect. The Warriors, I don't know what the score is. I'm not going to turn around right now. I'm going to be surprised. But they were losing to the Cavs, so like obviously they can have like their bad nights.
Don't sleep on that Cavs team, basketball fans.
And the New York Knicks, currently their starters have the worst. I think it's the worst defensive rating in the league, and I think it's like a bottom 5 all time. Right.
I don't know what's going on with the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
They're not the same Knicks team, it feels like. I don't know.
It's just the D Rose show. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I think that the Suns, they'll be fine. I was a little scared about them early on. I thought like, you know, maybe they're not as motivated this year. But they quickly turned it around, and you know, all the controversy in the news, they got past all that. And you know, now they're doing pretty good. So I think it's good for them.
Yeah. You know, I'll roll off what you said too, and I've tried to let my bias go. I am pretty biased about my team, obviously, because I cover them and I'm a huge fan. I love the Phoenix Suns, but a few people have pointed this out. And this might sound a little cocky, might sound a little overconfident, and I mentioned this. I said we've kind of had a lot of ugly wins. If that's the worst we're gonna play, and we're only gonna get better, we might win 14 in a row. We might win 15 in a row. And maybe down the stretch when it matters, we might win those important games, and maybe we will be that first seed. But if I know this Phoenix Suns team like I think I do, They just want to get back to the finals and win a championship. That's all that matters. They don't care like seriously, if you ask Chris Paul right now or Devin Booker, they just said, give us any seed. We just want to get back to the finals.
And I know primarily, Chris Paul is more of a facilitator, but he's not going to have a lot of nights where he has 1 point in the first 42 minutes like he did the other night. So I think you got to consider that as well. But yeah, we can move on. We could talk about the rival of the Phoenix Suns, and that is the LA Lakers and their soon-to-be new-named home, the Crypto.com Center, as the Staples Center is going to be gone by Christmas, I believe. So just what are your reactions to the Staples Center? All the memories that they were there of, Kobe, Shaq, Powell, all those guys. And then I guess you got the Clippers too, but probably not as notable. But what would you say?
Look, I'm not going to lie. I don't really know what crypto is. I'm assuming it's a very smart business strategy because you got the .com on there. So people are probably going to be great for revenue and ad clicks and all that and views and everything. It's probably smart financially. I don't think they would have done this big of a move because obviously Staples Center is iconic. It's been around forever, for as long as I know, and so many great memories and all that. But it's a little sad too. Obviously I'm not a Lakers fan, but me, I'm a fan of NBA history, and that's a big part of NBA history. So it kind of sucks. But the Lakers are obviously a huge market. It's in Los Angeles, California, and everything, and they probably know what they're doing. It's probably for the best move. I'm still going to call it the Staples Center, kind of like how Phoenix and just so many other teams keep changing their arena name, but I call it what it originally was. Like, you remember when didn't the Blazers just play in the Rose Garden or whatever? I still call it that. So hopefully that answers your question. I miss it for the nostalgia part, but probably financially it's for the best move.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of all it is. I know they're doing the .com thing, just for the reason you said, but yeah. I would have just preferred them to call it the Crypto Center. I feel like that
sounds cooler too.
It rolls off the tongue a lot better.
Yep.
Some people are already giving it new nicknames. I think Skip Bayless called it the Crypt Center because of how gloomy the Lakers are and stuff.
Don't get me started on the Lakers, man.
But I think that the Lakers fans, they're gonna be more upset about this because you got to think about the Clippers. They're getting a new arena in Inglewood in 2024 anyways. So, I mean, does it really matter? You got 2 years at the Crypto.com Center and then you're gone. So I don't think that their fan base really cares that much. But one thing I will say is that they announced this conveniently right after the Bulls beat the Clippers and the Lakers. So I'm going to live by the story that the Bulls ended the Staples Center.
There we go. Let's go.
What a time to be alive.
Don't get me started on the Lakers, man. I'm sure they'll probably make the playoffs, but they're a mess. I don't care if LeBron is healthy or not. I think they're going to struggle all season.
Lakers could be a whole episode.
Seriously. Yeah, we could rant about the Lakers the whole episode.
But, for timely purposes, we're going to move on to the trivia game. Now,
let's go.
Do you want me to? Actually, I should probably say the rules for the people that are watching that haven't seen it. So, I have 5 questions that I'm going to provide him, and each one has 5 possible hints per question. And on each question, you can get 3 guesses. If you get all of the guesses wrong, you get 0 points, unfortunately. But if you guess it right in less hints, then you get more points. So, let's say you use 1 hint and you get it right, 5 points. 2 hints, 4 points. And then it keeps on going.
Let's go.
You could earn 25 total points because there's 5 questions. And then at the very end, there's a bonus impossible question. That one has no hints, though. It's just one question about me and the NBA. And if you get that right, then you, I guess, are legendary because no one's gotten it yet. So
can I use a lifeline?
if you want to use a lifeline for that, sure, because I don't know if that would help much, but
you're one of the biggest NBA history fans I know, so I'll just call you.
All right, I don't know how much help I can be by legal purposes, but are you ready to get into trivia?
Excuse me. Yes, I am ready.
All right, so here's the first question and the first hint for the first question is now it could be anything with the NBA. It could be a past player, a current player, past team, current team, uh, like anything, like a move or something. So this one right here is a team, and they are one of three teams, along with the Lakers and the Cavaliers, to be the only franchises swept multiple times in the NBA Finals. Now, you could guess here, but you only get 3 guesses per question. You could also skip here to get the next hint, but you wouldn't get 5 points on this one.
The Los Angeles Lakers?
That I said along with the Lakers and the Cavaliers. They're one of 3 teams along with the Lakers and Cavaliers to be the only franchises swept multiple times in the NBA Finals.
I will use one of my hints.
Okay. Well, you want the next hint then?
Yes, next hint.
Okay. So the second hint now, if you get this right, you can get 4 points. This team has not been to the conference finals since 1979.
Oh man.
I think you'll get it after the next one, or the next one of the next 2 for sure, but you could guess here and get 4 points maybe.
The Washington Wizards?
It is the Washington Wizards.
Let's go.
That was impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
That was a hard question. I don't know why I thought the Lakers first. I must have missed part of the question. But yeah, wow,
I think it's because I said the Lakers or something. But the other hints were they had the 2 tallest players in NBA history, the 2 shortest players in NBA history, and then Michael Jordan played for them as well. So you would have got it eventually for sure. But 4 points, that's pretty impressive. I always say try to get at least 10. And that's kind of the goal. You're doing really good right now. So, second question, first hint is this is a current NBA player that has a brother that will be eligible in next year's NBA draft.
Oh God, I feel like this is kind of a trick question. Oh God, and it's right off the tip of my tongue too.
You could go big and guess a 5-pointer or skip and
it's because LiAngelo Ball's already in the NBA G League. Is it LiAngelo Ball?
It is not LiAngelo Ball. So that's your first strike on this question. You get
something's like it's like in the back of my head, but I can't like get it.
You get 3 guesses, so you used 1 right now, and now we'll move on to the next hint. So the second hint is this NBA player's nickname is the Rooster.
Oh my goodness. The Rooster. Oh, is it a Antetokounmpo brother? I don't know. Like that guy's like 10 brothers. I don't know.
Are you guessing one of the Antetokounmpos, or are you gonna?
I'm gonna guess one of them if I still have a guess available.
Are you gonna? Okay. So unfortunately, it is not one of the Antetokounmpo brothers. So now you got to play it safe. You got 2 strikes, so you only get 1 more guess available for this question.
Oh God!
Here's the third hint. This NBA player set the Atlanta Hawks franchise record for most 3-pointers made in a single game, and he did so last year. So he holds the all-time threes in a game record for the Hawks, and he was on the Hawks last year. Now, you could try and be safe and get maybe less points, or you could go big or go home here.
I'll go for less points, but I also feel like I know the answer too. I'll go for less points.
Okay, so the fourth hint, this is for 2 points. He was the Italian League MVP in 2008.
Boban, what's his name? Bogdanovic?
Are you guessing Bogdanovic?
Yeah, I get the guy from is it Pacers or Jazz mixed up with?
Yeah, those are the 2, but
yeah.
So I'm sorry to tell you, it is not Bogdanovic.
What?
And that's your 3rd strike. So for this question, you don't get any. I'll see if you can get it here. You probably will. The last hint was this guy rocked an interesting mohawk last year in the playoffs. for the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh my, Danilo Gallinari.
It is Gallinari.
Oh,
He's one of my guys too.
I should have known that.
He's one of my guys too. But
that was great.
That's fine because you got 4 on the first question, so you're still on pace for the 10. Here's the third question, first hint. This is a former NBA player who was once the runner-up for the NBA MVP award. So he never won MVP, but he once finished second in MVP. And he's a former player.
Former player, and he was runner-up for MVP. Whew.
That was the best he finished, too. So, like, he never won it.
So many names are running through my head right now as a fan of NBA history. Do I still have hints available, correct?
You can you can skip this and move on to the next hint.
Okay.
But that'll be worth 4 points then if you get it right instead of 5.
Ooh. Let's skip and go to less points.
Okay. So
for that.
The second hint is he went to the same high school as Phoenix Suns legend Connie Hawkins.
Former player, Phoenix Suns legend Connie Hawkins.
They went to the same high school, and he was once an MVP runner-up.
Never won an MVP.
Now, you do have one more skip available, and then after that, you could pretty much just guess, or you could try and guess right now for another 4-pointer.
Yeah, let's use another hint because I am drawing a blank.
Okay, so the third hint is he was one of the first ever player coaches in the NBA.
Lenny Wilkins?
That's impressive. It is Lenny Wilkins.
Let's go.
I was thinking like, okay, he's probably gonna guess like Bill Russell or like someone like that. Like after I said that,
I'm not gonna lie, I did think Bill Russell for a minute.
I feel like that's who everyone thinks of first of all when they think that. But yeah, did you know that about him and Connie Hawkins though?
No, and you know me, I got Connie on my wall back here. Like I did not know that. That's crazy.
I actually didn't know that either. I was looking through and I'm like, I need another hint, and then I just looked at where he went to high school. Weirdly enough, it might be sus. It's named Boys High School, so that's kind of like a pause there. But yeah, so you got 7 points right now, and you need 3 more to get at least a 10. So here's the fourth question, the first hint. This retired NBA player started his career with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Started his career with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And he's a retired NBA player. Now, there are a lot of people that started with the Cavs, but, I mean, this guy was pretty good.
Mark Price?
It is not Mark Price.
Oh, I knew I shouldn't have jumped on that so early.
So that's the first strike. You do have 2 more guesses available. The second hint, now if you get this right, it's worth 4 points. This former player was the mayor of Sacramento from 2008 to 2016.
Kevin Johnson.
It is Kevin Johnson.
Let's go.
And I intentionally put that in there because I'm like, I'm going to test this Phoenix Suns knowledge a little bit.
Got my guy Kevin Johnson back there, if you guys can see him. Somewhere on my wall.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, the Cavs won, like, he only played there like half a year, so that's hard.
Honestly, though, if you ask like a casual basketball fan that, they probably would have needed more guesses.
Yeah, they probably don't remember that. So currently, you're at 11 points going to the final question, which, as of right now in the show, this is the highest anyone's been.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
It's technically tied, but if you get at least 1 point here, then you're currently first on the leaderboard. So, the fifth question, the first hint. Now, this one might be the hardest one, I'd say. So, this play-by-play commentator, now it's a commentator we're talking about, has been broadcasting since 1973.
Sorry, I'm doing some math. It's obviously not somebody who's on my wall over here because he's been doing it longer. He's been doing it since 1973. Oh man, this is actually a lot harder than it sounds. I'm gonna take a guess here. Marv Albert
is not Marv Albert.
Ooh.
So that's the first guess gone. You're good. You still got 2 more guesses.
Marv's obviously been there a long time, but he might have been there longer than 73.
He has been there for a while. Marv Albert has. Yeah. But the second hint now, you get this right, you get 4 points. He worked NBA sportscasting for NBC from 1990 to 2002.
I'm going to need another guess. This is where I might start using my guesses.
Okay, so you want the next hint?
Uh-huh. I'll take lower points.
All right, so the third hint is he has received 28 Emmy Awards and was a primetime host for 12 Olympic Games.
I know the face, but I don't know the name.
If you can describe the person, like in some way that I can relate to, then
what is his name?
What are you thinking of?
I don't know. He wasn't he on didn't he have a show on like HBO? Or am I thinking somebody else?
You might be thinking of someone else, unless I just don't know about this.
I don't know. I think I might have to strike out on this one.
Well, you can use another skip here for the fourth hint.
Let's use another skip. Okay. I'm maxing those out.
All right, so the fourth hint is he is the guy who called when Kobe Bryant made his iconic alley-oop assist to Shaq in the Western Conference Finals.
It's on my tongue.
I feel like you do know who it is.
Yeah,
but you're gonna.
This is why I'd be a terrible like game show host, because I would give my contestants too many chances. God, I'm gonna be kicking myself after. I give up on this one. I know it, but I don't know it.
But you could throw out any guess if you want for this one, and then you still got another guess after this.
God, what is his name? I'm blank. I'm drawing crickets.
You don't even want to guess for the fourth hint here?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's the second strike, and this is your last chance to earn a single point here. He also made the iconic call for Michael Jordan's final shot with the Chicago Bulls in Game 6 of the 1998 NBA Finals.
I feel a little embarrassed in a funny way because I just do not know. And and this guy's a legend. I know who he is, but I don't know who he is. I'm gonna have to strike out. I'm gonna have to give up on this one.
You're gonna give up? No guess?
Yeah, I'm giving up. No guess. I just can't get it.
That's tough. The correct answer was Bob Costas.
You're the bleep me out because I'm gonna start cussing up a storm.
I feel like you knew that probably right after the NBC thing, right?
I'm telling you, if I saw him in my local grocery store, I would know who he is, but I didn't know who he was.
People forget about him though because he's not like around the NBA as much anymore. But he's so iconic.
He's a legend.
But I mean, you're not completely done. You have one last chance at the impossible level bonus. Now, nobody's ever got this right. You're currently tied for the most points ever on the show. But if you get this right, I mean, you'll have a commanding lead. So here's the question. It has something to do with me and the NBA. Good. So in 2015, I submitted a question for a Facebook Q&A with somebody in the NBA, and he ultimately replied to my question. So who is that person?
I want to use one of my hints, but I also think I have the answer.
There are no hints on this one.
Oh, there's no hints. Okay.
This is just like
impossible. I'm stupid. I'm just gonna say it. Brian Scalabrine.
Is that your final guess, Brian Scalabrine?
Final guess.
I'm sorry, it is not Brian
No.
Scalabrine.
The reason I said that is because you told me a story about the Basketball Hall of Fame and you've met Brian Scalabrine on your Instagram and all that. And I thought it was him.
Yeah, I have seen him multiple times, taken pictures with him multiple times. So
Yeah.
there's that. But the correct answer, I said somebody someone in the NBA. The correct answer.
I should have listened.
The correct answer, and you might be surprised, it's actually Adam Silver. Yeah.
Whoa.
This is like after his first year, and then he did like a Facebook Q&A with like some of the fans, whatever. And then I just randomly submitted a question about like if he plans to like keep the draft the same like over the foreseeable future. I think he also answered like one of Harrison Barnes' questions on there. Like he replied there. So, but he only answered I think like 6 or 7, and I was lucky enough to get picked for 1. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And that's why it's the impossible level challenge, because I thought it was a player or a former player, and I just completely overlooked that. I didn't even think of Adam Silver.
that one is supposed to be the trickiest. I mean, I wouldn't get too harsh on yourself. No one's gotten it yet. And
I'm glad I'm tied for the leaderboard, though. That's exciting.
If someone does get it, like, I'm going to have to do, like, some dance or something. Like,
right.
Dance. I don't know how I'm going to, like, react. But, yeah. So that's pretty good. I mean, you got 11 points. That's still at the top of the leaderboards as of right now. But I think that's going to close out the show for today. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys for watching. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, just once again, thanks so much for having me on the show. That trivia segment was so much fun. I might have to like clip it and put it on my channel. We got to do this again sometime. Next time you're on my channel, maybe I'll do some trivia for you. If you guys are, watching at this point, follow me on social media at Suns Geek. Check out my Suns Geek YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. And once again, thanks for having me on, man. It was a blast.
Of course. And I'm going to have somewhere on here, like check description is going to say, so you won't forget to do that. I think the Kevin Johnson one, I mean, it proves that you are a true Suns fan, so I got to give you it there. But
thanks, man.
Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.